I was talking to my manager about some things that I thought would improve the service. He basically told me my job wasn't to think.
Okay.
And the next day, the owner of the restaurant said, "Hey, I liked your ideas." And I could not understand how he knew what I was talking about. And he had the window open, told me all about it. And he was like, "I'm going to get rid of that company. I like your ideas."
Hey everyone, you're watching the Lively Charleston Podcast. Our goal with the show is to interact with and tell the stories of the amazing people, places, and businesses that make Charleston the best city in the world.
If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube.
And check us out on Instagram and Facebook, where we post content regularly throughout the week. Thanks so much, guys. Hope you enjoy the episode. Today's guest is a multiple business owner, a single father, and one of the genuinely funniest and coolest guys you will ever meet. He launched Lowcountry Valet in 2011, which customizes vintage buses, cars, and motorcycles for movies and events in Charleston, Savannah, and the Hamptons as their soon-to-be third destination. In 2018, he launched his second company, Silverside Design, which turns vintage Italian scooter trucks into these like amazing portable little Prosecco bars for their clientele, which basically covers the entire United States. So we have a lot to talk about today, but first, let's officially introduce our guest, Mr. Jeffrey Newton. What's up, brother?
Hey, man. Good.
Dude, how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I'm pumped to be here. Part of Lively Charleston, getting on the air.
Yeah. All right. Hey, we made it. Now we know. Is this the day that you know? Does this mark the day you made it?
Yeah. You sent me that questionnaire, and this might be one of those moments. I didn't have an answer for a couple of them, but this might be one of those.
Hey, Well, listen, man. I know. So we've been talking about this for probably at least 6-8 weeks, getting you on the show and trying to find some time in your schedule there. Mm-hmm. You're a pretty busy guy. You're hard to kind of nail down for a half hour in the studio.
Yeah. I get reminded by a lot of people about that all the time.
You got a lot going on here.
Yeah.
That's a good problem, though, to have, right? To be busy is better than slow. For
sure. Yeah, I prefer it that way anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, hey, man, we got a lot to talk about here, in the next half hour or so. Unless you get really bored, we could just cut it whenever. You could just take the headphones off and walk out, and I'll know that we're done.
All right. I'm going to slam them, make sure I eyeball the camera.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Make a statement when you do it.
Him, man. He's looking expensive. Yeah.
So let's go back in time a little bit. We're going to talk about a lot. We're going to catch up. I want to dive a little bit more into what you're doing with Lowcountry Valet and with Silverside. But let's kind of take it back a little bit. We're talking about just in kind of the pre-interview questions. Some of the things you mentioned were just kind of growing up. You're born in Charlotte, grew up in some rougher neighborhoods there.
Yeah.
So some of that kind of had an impact on just kind of you growing up.
Yeah. So when I moved, shoot, man, this digging up all the child.
Let's go back.
Yeah. So I was born and raised in Charlotte. My family's actually from Charleston, and they were raised pretty well here. My dad was on the Battery. He grew up on Murray Street, and my mom grew up in Snee Farm. So,
oh wow, okay.
Yeah. So we moved into the projects where that's where I lived my first few years, and they didn't really know what to do with that.
In Charlotte or here in Charleston?
Yeah, in Charlotte.
Okay.
Yeah. And so age 3, we moved out into a better position. It was a pretty good neighborhood. It was lower class, but safe and all that. But as I got older, the neighborhood kept declining. So by the time I was a teenager, yeah, man, there's a lot of gangs, a lot of violence. My high school was filled with gangs, and there's a lot of gang rivalries going on. So I think it was also like a big time in like the media and like hip hop. Like it was it almost felt like it encouraged those things.
Sure.
So, I was very much part of that. I loved it. I didn't really know that it was a super unhealthy environment to be in.
Sure.
But yeah, I definitely fully embraced it in my teenage years. But lots of tough guy stuff.
Yeah.
Getting into trouble. Running around with the wrong people in the neighborhood and things like that.
Just kind of trying to find your place, right?
Yeah. It was really tough because I was actually I was like a minority in my neighborhood. There was only a handful of white people there, and you know, so you're always trying to like find your place, like fit in. So you know, you're trying to be loud, trying to be heard and seen, and everything like that. And you know, unfortunately, when you're doing that, you know, you attract the attention you want as well as the kind you don't want.
Right.
So
something you mentioned was that when you were growing up, you really didn't have, if you look back now, you didn't have a lot of great role models to look up to. And kind of the theme was that like most people you knew that had any sort of money or financial means were probably doing something illegal.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and it didn't help that all like the music like glorified that, you know, all the everything we listened to, all the, you know, rap videos and stuff. So, you know, we had these kids, they weren't kids, but, you know, guys in the neighborhood and, you know, involved in a lot of legal things, but they looked like they made it. You know, all of us struggled, you know, most of us, you know, had almost nothing. So, you know, we saw these guys with nice cars and nice clothes and jewelry and everything. And we're like, man, you know, and they were always like smooth talking, like cool dudes, you know, they seemed to not have a care in the world. So, you know, we looked up to those guys, you know, we didn't have any like basketball players or, you know, I don't even know what were your idols when you were a kid? Like, did you have anything specific like that? Because I can't even remember thinking about that. I just remember like real people in my life looking at those and being like, oh man, I want a car with some rims on it.
Yeah.
That was like the height of my ambition at that age, you know?
Exactly. Or one of those like CD players with the deck that folds out and has a screen that pops up.
Oh, bro, you just took me back, man. I forgot all about
like
the crazy
Integra with the screen.
Yeah, all the crazy stuff that they had going on back then, you know, with aftermarket CD players and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, it's funny you talk about that because like especially when we grew up, the world was a lot smaller. We didn't have social media, so like
right.
Like you talk about like who were my idols back then. I mean, I had like professional athletes, you know, like Ken Griffey Jr. was my idol. But then as far as like real people, because like I wouldn't say, you know, I didn't grow up in the projects, but like we were definitely like lower class, no question.
For sure.
If anything, like the very, very, very bottom of the middle class, right?
Yeah.
So like to me, I remember my dad had this one friend, his name was Scott, and he was like the rich guy as far as I knew, but he basically just, he was a single guy. He had a house bigger than us, and he had a Saturn. It was a little Saturn coupe, but it was like the sick one, like the two-door, and it had like a shiny blue paint job. I was like, dang, and it went fast. You know, it was 4-cylinder. And it went, you know, I was like, dang, I want to be like Scott, you know, when I grow up, have some money, be successful. But that was all I knew. That was the best example I had.
Hey, man, you know, I had a neighbor like that. Actually, he's a lifelong friend. His last name was Jolly, and thus we just called him Jolly. And he was the neighbor that seemed to have the life. Yeah. You know, his dad was a pharmacist, and we're like, man, you got to be doing things as a pharmacist. You know, as an adult, I'm like, that's kind of like an average career. You know, it's not. I mean, no offense to any pharmacists out there, like, you know.
Yeah, they work crazy hours. You know.
Yeah, I mean, it's an attainable thing. You know what I mean? But it seems so unattainable. You know, like everyone in our neighborhood, a lot of blue collar jobs. You know, people didn't have white collar jobs in that area, you know,
right?
People, construction workers and, you know, whatnot. So, they had a new Ford Explorer. I was like, dang, look at that thing. You know, it had like a little bit of bass already built in. And, you know, it's funny. So my dad, he drove an 85 Corolla, which in this point in my life, I would kill to have a stick shift 85 Corolla coupe.
My very first car.
Really?
Yep.
No shit.
Yeah, it was brown. It was brown. I called it Hanky, and it was a little stick shift. It was probably worth $600.
Hanky, why?
Man, oh my God, you could have it. I wish I still had it. I would just give it to you right now. You could.
I dated a girl named the car Leonard, and that thing was in bad shape too. I was like, why do people name cars crappy cars, like
crappy names,
weird names? Yeah. You need to give it something like authentic and badass. Be like, you know. That's Thor right there.
That's Thor. Just lean all the way into it.
Yeah. I used to have a Chevy Astro van, and we spray painted the whole thing, and we put the Beast across it. And,
hell yeah.
You know, it probably didn't look very appealing in residential neighborhoods.
It's funny, though, when you're a kid, I mean, just like, that's just such a huge step. You know, I remember when I got my car, even though it was like, I went to a private school. So I was probably one of the brokest, kids at that school. There's a lot of Infinities and Mercedes in the parking lot, and I had Hanky, and it didn't even have, the keys didn't work. So I actually started it with a screwdriver. So I had a screwdriver in my pocket walking around to school, but like, I didn't care. I was so happy to have a car. It didn't even matter.
We had a couple boosters in our neighborhood that they don't have a different car every couple months, and have that old fancy screwdriver starting it. We didn't ask questions. We just, let's go to the mall.
Yeah, they'd definitely swipe my car. It would not have lasted. So, hey, speaking of former jobs, so one thing I thought was really interesting that you mentioned is that kind of before you got into this whole entrepreneurial thing, you were an ice sculptor.
Yeah.
How does one become an ice sculptor? And were you good at that or what? Like, could you make a...
you know what? I was pretty good, and I was one of those kids that was always sketching in class. And so, man, I probably got to write a book with all these stories, man. But all right, so the ice sculptor thing was a complete accident. I was looking for a place to live, and I found this guy who had the bottom floor of a house for rent, and it was $550 a month. And I was like, I can't afford that. It's $550.
Big money.
Yeah, I was like, I'm trying to get in like the 225 range. And so I went to the guy. His name was Gary. He was actually my first mentor. Turned into my first mentor. And his house was surrounded by woods in a very, urban area. I never even knew his house was there. It was he had like a 6,000 or 7,000 square foot home in the middle of where it shouldn't be. And I was like, dang, I just thought this was woods this whole time. It was his house. So I went there, and it was all retroed out. Like the whole downstairs was all wood panel walls. It had its own private entrance. It had a kitchen. It was a 2-bedroom with bathroom. And he and I, we hit it off. And I was like, look, man, you look like you got a lot of sticks in this yard. I'll pick them up. If you, meet me at 275, I'll pick up all the sticks in this yard, whatever. And he's like, well, I don't want the sticks picked up, but you come see me at the warehouse, and you can push a broom out there on the weekends. And he owned an ice sculpting company.
No way.
Yeah. Ice Sensations. It was like the 3rd largest ice sculpting company in the U.S. Did a ton of volume, and that was actually my first step into the event industry, and especially with weddings and corporate events and stuff like that. Okay,
so let's go back. I want to talk about the ice piece, because I've seen this at like fairs and stuff, or like people that can make like a bird, a real looking bird out of a single piece of wood or ice or something like that. Like, how long did it take you to learn to do that and get good at it?
All right, so something I started discovering around this time in my life is if there was something I could say that I had a natural talent for, is picking up skill sets very, very quickly. So, I told you I used to sketch a bunch as a kid. So it was basically just going from making it a 2D image to a 3D. And I had Gary and a couple other, their titles are master carvers.
Okay.
Yeah, it's flashy,
That's who you want to learn from.
Yeah, so, the transition was easy. And they ended up losing an employee, and I went full-time there. And so I got a lot of time in the freezer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that what they called it?
Yeah.
That's fitting.
Yeah, and you start off like they have templates that they'll CNC out that kind of cut the outer or the outline of the image of whatever you're trying to create first, and that's the stuff you practice on. Then you just get used to shaping it and digging in to create that depth. As you get more advanced, then you start combining blocks of ice and multiple pieces, and you eventually get to the point where you just freehand,
That's wild.
Yeah, it's cool, man. And, it's a hell of a workout. One block of ice was 300 pounds, and sometimes you have like a 6 to 8 piece. Yeah, and you have to get them up on top of each other. We had big sleds and engine hoists that we'd pull them out of these things called the coffins, man. I was actually pretty jacked, and I was still young enough I could eat whatever I wanted. And so I was just taking down those Philly cheesesteaks and ripping ice blocks out of coffins, and man, pushing sleds.
Is that like riding a bike or what? Like if we just dropped one in front of you, could you carve something pretty sweet out of it?
Oh yeah. I I'll take that thing
Just
down.
pick it right back up. Huh?
Ice is also really forgiving. You know, it melts and smooths itself out, so it hides kind of your errors. And if you break a chunk off, you just throw some water on it, stick it against it. It's such a big block that it freezes itself back. It like fuses.
Nice.
So, yeah, you can get away with.
See, something I didn't know.
Yeah, if you put me on a piece of wood, I probably wouldn't look as nice. Yeah,
a little bit different.
Yeah.
All right, man. So, let's talk about here a little bit. So, you ended up starting your first company, Lowcountry Valet.
Right.
Kind of by accident, right? So, you were doing valet for another company, and then that company was like losing its contract with the restaurant, but the restaurant wanted to keep you on.
Correct. So, I hit a point in my life in Charlotte where I was about to be homeless, which would have been for the second time in my life, which I couldn't have. So I packed up everything, and Charlotte wasn't doing anything good for me. So I moved down here to start an ice sculpting business, and it failed. It failed miserably.
It's too hot down here, man. The ice wouldn't stick.
Yeah, well, I did also, Charleston's a small community, and I underestimated the just the loyalty among people. Quality be damned. I was really good. And there's a guy here who was good as well, but if I could present the same quality item at a lower price, it didn't matter because they were there. It's just a different mentality here, which I've grown to really appreciate. Takes
time to break in.
Yeah. Yep. I was an outsider. So that failed, and I got a job as a valet parking attendant, and was doing the grind with the sweatband in the middle of summer, running back and forth, hopping in cars that I really wasn't qualified to drive. Yeah. I didn't know how to drive a stick shift when I started that job. I had some moments, man.
So some guy pulls up in like a Aston Martin worth $150,000, and you're trying to park it.
Oh, I had so many moments like this, man. I if I could just pick out one, it wasn't even a really nice car. It was just that the guy just hovered over me. It's like he could smell my fear. And he had a dang, what was it? Well, I guess it doesn't matter, but the car had a lot of power, and it was a stick shift, and I didn't realize it. And so I would rev the hell out of a car and slowly, I rode motorcycles all the time, so I understood the concept of the clutch, but I never did it with my feet before. So I'd rev it high and then slowly let it out, but this thing was super sensitive, and as soon as I did, I peeled the back tires right in front of him. Right in front of him, dude. And when I did it, you panic stop, and I stalled the car out. And he goes, "Have you ever driven a stick shift?" And I was just like, "Yeah." I was trying to "Yeah, dude, give me some space." And so I was like, I was the king of trying to play things off. But I peeled it out the second time too, but I didn't panic stop, and I just went around the corner. I was like, thank God, when I got out of view, I was like pouring sweat just from that one interaction. Yeah. But
So we learned how to drive a stick on the fly here.
Yeah, I appreciate all those people that let me kill their transmission for the in the sake of education. Yeah. So
let's talk about how Lowcountry Valet came about, and then so you started that in 2011, right?
Yeah. So
it's been 10 years now.
Yeah. So I was at that restaurant, Carolina's. It was down on Exchange Street. It's now, I think, a hair salon or something. Typical Charleston.
Yeah. We need more of those, more nail salons.
Yeah, for sure. I was out there one day on the phone, and I was talking to my manager about some things that I thought would improve the service, and I had it on speakers. I'm not supposed to have my phone out, so I had it on speaker. I was talking to him, and he basically told me my job wasn't to think. It was pretty
okay.
Yeah, it was. I was like, okay.
Let you know where you stand.
Yeah,
all right?
yeah. He let me know I was a very valued employee. And the next day, the owner of the restaurant, he had an office upstairs. I didn't even know it was like a secret door, and he came out of it, and I was like, oh shit. And he said, hey, I liked your ideas, and I could not understand how he knew what I was talking about. Or he had heard, and he took me up to his office through this little secret door, And yeah, he had the window open, told me all about it. And he was like, I'm going to get rid of that company. I like your ideas. He was like, do you
Wait, so he like overheard the conversation?
Yeah, yeah.
No
yeah.
way.
Yeah. And I was always there already. And I was, the GM there liked me a lot. I had a good rapport with all the employees. And he was like, do you think you could do this? And I was like, yep. Yeah, there was no hesitation. I mean, I was like, it's got to be better than this. I'm doing the same thing, but I'm probably getting paid more. Or so I thought. And so yeah, I jumped on, and the contract I think was worth. When I think about this moment, I'm like, this guy totally took advantage of this situation. I'm sure he got himself a deal from whatever contract he was in with the other company. But I can't be mad at him. He gave me an opportunity one I never had before.
And you didn't know what you didn't know either, right? If you're being underpaid, overworked, or whatever, right? It was just an opportunity.
He was like, I'll give you 20 G's a year. At that time, I think I had only ever made maybe 12. I lived on a really tight budget.
Clearly.
Ate a lot of subs from Harris Teeter.
Hey man, but how old were you at this time?
I was just turned 25.
Okay.
Yep. So yeah, I jumped all in, and I was my only employee, and I worked in the morning. I was a bagger from 6 a.m. at Publix, 6 a.m. to 2, and I'd drive downtown and valet park for myself.
Yep.
Until like 10 or 11. I do that every day, man. It sucked.
So first of all, respect, man. Respect the grind.
Appreciate it.
I appreciate that. I think I feel like when you find success later, it means so much more if you just had to eat shit for a while. You know what I mean? That you just appreciate it so much more.
Yeah, I think what the biggest value you get is just the education through the process. You know what I mean? The work ethic you gain, and the shortcuts you learn. Just the more you know, kind of. Yeah.
Yep.
A couple of, most of my friends are entrepreneurs at this point. It's like who you relate with.
Yep.
And we talk about like, if it all went down, you probably had those conversations like, if it all crashed and burned, what do you do? And all of us are pretty much on the same, like, at this point, man, we've been through so many scenarios. Like, we could probably make money any way we wanted.
Yep.
We just chose these avenues at this point. So, but anyway, shit, I done lost my place.
Dude, no, 100%, man. I love that point you just made. And yes, I have that conversation in my head by myself all the time, and then also with my friends.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, sometimes it's kind of scary, but then if you think about like, okay, me from like 25-year-old, you figured it out, right? It just took a little while for you to do it. So it's like, now if you take you now, who's smarter, even if you took away all your resources, your financial resources,
right?
But you're so much smarter and you have so much more experience than you had then. So you'd think that you would just figure it out again, but this time just faster.
Exactly. You could probably turn it around about 10 times as fast,
Yep.
You already know who to go to, what works, what doesn't, that kind of thing. So, man, I lost track of what
dude. It's all good, man. We're having fun here. We're talking about Lowcountry Valet. So let's so how did you go from working for yourself to now? I mean, Lowcountry Valet, you guys, you make custom vintage buses, cars, motorcycles. And these are for like events and movies and stuff. That like, do you own these and they lease them from you, or do people? Orders, or what?
So
how's that work?
I fucking hated valet parking. It was the worst, and I hated bagging, so those had to go. I wasn't really making much money. Actually, the city ended up passing laws against valet parking, and then they bid out the spots that people were already valet parking. So that was like my first experience of money is power kind of thing.
Yep.
You just got pushed right out. So I found myself trying to go the only other way I'd seen money made was just weddings. And so I put out an ad on some wedding websites for valet parking, but I kept getting calls for transportation. To really make this as short as possible, I started just renting vans, and then that evolved into I saw how to create demand for a product. And since I think demand is the most important thing. If you can channel demand, you can essentially provide whatever product or service needs to be provided and make an income. The demand is the hardest thing to obtain.
Right.
So I had that coming straight to me. So it just evolved from renting shuttle vans to getting buses, cars, slowly. And, as they accumulated, they made more revenue. And, being used to living on almost nothing, you just learn you're about that grind. You want to live off as little as possible and take everything you can to keep creating more wealth. Yep. You're never really done. So, so at this point we've got a whole fleet. We've got 20 something vehicles. We've got drivers, we've got operations teams, we got salespeople, accounts. I mean, the whole works, man. It's pretty much an autonomous company at this point. I sit in on meetings on Monday and help strategize and, speak in on certain stuff, but people will rent our stuff. We'll put chauffeurs in them, and we show up with the vehicle. It's pretty much like a prop rental service, to be honest. But it's cool because none of my assets depreciate. On the contrary, they appreciate because they're all antique. So whereas most vehicle investments are terrible, like they depreciate immediately, I never have to buy new stock. It's always in style. It's always, there's always demand.
That's amazing, man. That is so cool.
I didn't think about this ahead of time. I just discovered it along the way, happy accidents.
Yeah. Well, they say luck favors the bold.
I mean,
so it was pretty bold of you to get into this in the first place, right?
Hey, I don't know if I had to be bold. I just had to have very little options.
Yeah, you had to eat.
Yeah,
so you had to do something. So that's cool. So you said you have 20 something vehicles. Is that between Charleston and Savannah currently?
Yeah. So we just house everything here and drive them to the locations.
Got you.
Yeah. And so for the Hamptons location, we're trying to launch. My business is based heavily in events. So COVID just wiped us. I mean, we're one of the larger companies in the wedding industry here. And I mean,
everything got canceled.
Everything got canceled. Not to mention, you had to keep people on because we do over 1,500 weddings a year, and that's a lot of clients calling, wanting to wring our necks. Trying to chase money back out of their contracts. So it was a lot to deal with, and I took that time. Clubhouse, a good friend of mine, Sean Tillman, he's over at Seacoast Church. He's the media director there. He does all the film and photography. You see all those incredibly inspiring films. If you're a Seacoast member, my man Sean Tillman, he's incredible.
I see their videos. They're really, really good.
Yeah. He's changed the game for their media over there. Cool. Yeah, he's great. But he introduced me to Clubhouse, and from there I was able to get put on a bunch of speaker boards with some emerging clubs in there, and they're all based around kind of elite wedding vendors. So what I do is singular to Charleston, or basically no one does what I do anywhere in the U.S. And there's some people that do it in different countries, but not to the scale that we do it.
What do you mean specifically when you say no one does what you do?
So there's people that have vintage car rentals. You can get probably a Rolls Royce rental anywhere, but taking a bus, gutting it, refurbishing it, and we recreate it to really be a representation of the time period, but West Elmed, the West Elm version,
Yeah, okay.
So our buses are highly photographable. People want to be inside them. They want to be seen in them. They're not like a party bus. They are a rolling work of art. That takes if you were to pay someone to do that, we do it all ourselves because we couldn't afford to pay someone. And when I was starting this, I couldn't. So you're talking $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 to get this kind of work done. It's just not an economically viable business plan
unless you have the skill set yourself.
Right, the skill set is different because it's all labor. So,
so the people that work with you, I mean, have you just had to train them all yourself? I imagine you can't just hire people with a skill set.
Certain things. So when I learned everything. I had to do it. It was just the necessity of not having money and wanting to see a vision through. If you're really dedicated, man, you learn what has to be learned. And so a lot of skill sets I put in the time and the practice. And my first couple buses are, if you pin them against my latest work, which is pristine. I've got 11 years of experience at this point. you know, if they look like trash.
Right. Especially to your eye, you probably see every possible.
Oh yeah. People don't see them. They're like, oh man, you know, they still freak out, which, you know, gives me hope, you know, but still when I see them, I'm like, trash ass bus. Like, there's one and every time I look bad, I look away, but people still like get so excited over it, you know. You know, it sells just as much as my biggest and best ones. So,
but you know, it's like with any skill, right? The first one, no matter how good or bad it is, it's always the worst.
For sure.
Or the first couple are always the worst.
Yeah. So getting on Clubhouse was a really cool opportunity because in the very beginning of Clubhouse, I was talking with celebrities, and you know, because there was less than like 1 million people on it, which is, it sounds like a lot, but for an app, it's nothing.
Yep.
You know, when you're talking about 1 billion people on Facebook. So, you know, I ended up on the speaker boards with some really elite planners, photographers, artists of all kinds. And, you know, it connected me with some people in the Hamptons. And, you know, people doing weddings in the Hamptons, they're not spending less than, you know, $500,000 or $1 million on their event, which is crazy money to the average person, you know. But to me, I'm just like, this is the perfect market for a niche product like ours. Yep. So, and, you know, that was shared among some of these planners. So they actually approached us and they were like, why don't y'all come out here? We've got a client that we think this would sell for. And I was like, oh, what?
Let's talk.
Yeah, what's that money say? You know? So yeah, they came back and they were like, you know, people are paying this amount of money for just regular buses to come out. And that was still like 4 times my rate here for just a regular old bus to go out there.
So then you doubled that number and said, let's do it?
Oh yeah. Well, so not only that, but I was like, they got to rent it for the whole day or not at all. Mm-hmm. I'm not taking a bus up to Hamptons for, you know, there's a lot of expenses in that. So
for sure.
There was other considerations to be made, but yeah, so we've locked in our first one and they've connected us with other planners. So we've taken 2 of our buses off the market for Charleston for June of next year and September. So they only really have a 2-month season.
Got it. Okay.
But I mean, it's looking like I could make a year's worth of revenue in 2 months.
It's looking like you might need to make some more buses.
Yeah, well, that's always the problem, honestly. We have like 6 buses sitting on the lot that haven't even gotten done yet because, I mean, there's still large projects no matter which way you slice it. But yeah, we're always sold out, so I can't build them fast enough. It's just a time issue.
Dude, that's amazing. And first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
What's cool is like it seems like now you've broken into kind of I guess like a luxury event market, right?
Yeah.
And these people talk, right? So like now that you're in, if you know one person paying $500,000 and, you know, then they're posting their photos and all their friends are seeing them, you know, whatever, celebrities or, you know, rich business people elsewhere. And they're going to say, yo, where'd that bus come from? Or who did that? Or how do I get one? And well, it's almost like once you're in, you're in.
Well, part of the reason that I got onto those speaker boards in the first place was because we ended up doing Justin Bieber's wedding. And that was down in the Montage at Palmetto Bluff.
No way, I didn't know that.
That's crazy. Yeah. So that was an interesting experience. I'm not gonna speak too much on the details of it, but yeah. So in doing so, you know, there's obviously paparazzi and stuff, and we ended up on the what was it? Was it Huffington Post? Anyway, it was like a global publication because everyone wants to know about Justin Bieber's wedding.
Yeah.
And I remember when that whole thing went down and we ended up on that publication, I was like, shit's about to get real.
Dang.
Yeah.
Now, any chance he just like went and left you a Google review or gave you a testimonial or anything like that?
You know, I was for a minute I like followed all these celebrities that I absolutely hate, and I was like, man, you know, because they were posting photos of themselves in the buses, but I was like putting at Lowcountry Valet and all that stuff.
Don't forget,
needless to say, no one tagged me at all, so it's all right. You know,
but you're in there now, right?
Yeah.
I feel like that would kind of be that's kind of on the level of like, you know, when a a group of athletes, like a tattoo artist, and then they start spreading the word, and then like that artist gets all the business because they trust him. They build a relationship, and they just keep passing it on and on.
Yeah. I was hoping. I mean, it would have been really cool if so The Rock recently posted about him getting another sleeve done by an artist, and I followed that guy because I like I have some photorealistic tattoos, and I was like, man, I gotta follow this guy. The Rock is doing, but it's the same thing. It's like it's almost like an unintentional referral.
Yep.
But he never tagged me. He never did. He never did.
Hey, you know what? But you're in there now. It's not too late.
Correct.
It's not too late. You can still still go. Add him on. Just send him a DM. He's only got 100 million followers.
Yeah. I sent a couple. He'll
probably read it.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. So Lowcountry Valet. I mean, that's obviously up and to the right. That's moving in the direction you want it to go.
Right.
So which is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So what led you to then start your other company, Silverside Design?
You want me to go all the way back on this? All the way? Because this is going to go back to like early Lowcountry days, man.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's hear it, man.
So lots of failures that lead to eventual successes, it seems, So back when Lowcountry hadn't really taken off yet, I tried to start another side hustle, bringing in these tuk-tuks, these little 3-wheel vehicles that you see all over India. But I wanted to bring in like a really nice version, an all-electric one. And so I brought it in.
Sorry, what is this? What is the word you just said?
A tuk-tuk.
Yep. Can you please tell myself and the viewers at home what a tuk-tuk is?
So if anyone's ever been over to India, there are these very vibrantly decorated 3-wheel vehicles. It's like a 1 wheel in the front, 2 in the back, and they just load people into these things and fly through the streets. And they're the most unsafe things ever. And
I think I've seen some viral videos on YouTube.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's someone sent me one of like people having races with them and going over like big dirt mounds, and I mean, as soon as they hit the ground they just like a can, they just collapse on each other. Like they're not well made, but they I had a hunch that they would be successful. So we get rid of all the decorative and the tassels and I was like, we clean these up, make them look like a nice vintage vehicle. We can maybe replace pedicabs, because pedicabs, sweaty dudes biking, butts in your face, stopping traffic. I was like, all right, here's another environment friendly option. Keeps up with traffic.
That's what I was gonna say. It kind of reminds me, like if you took like a pedicab, right? So which is the bikers, right?
Yeah.
And combine that with like a tiny U-Haul, right?
Are you even what I'm doing with Silverside now?
Those two had a baby. It seems like that's what this contraption would be.
So these are the kind of the evolution of the pedicab, actually. So that's where it all started. So eventually you had a guy like running with a cart with people sitting in it, and then he was bicycling that cart, and then they motorized it, and then they put an enclosure over the guy so he's not getting rained on and sun beating down. And so that was
okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So the city was like, hell no. So I was like, I'm going to do everything right. I'm going to go in front of City Hall, and I'm going to talk to these guys. They're going to love it. I'm going to sell this thing. At this point in my life, I did not know I had a problem with public speaking.
Oh.
So
what happened when the day came?
Well, this was one of the great learning experiences of my life, like trying to rally politicians to get behind an idea. It's very difficult. So the mayor at the time, Joe Riley, was not a fan. And
not a fan of what? Just making these street legal?
Well, he didn't want them in the city. He didn't like them. And so that's when I learned about cronyism. And yeah.
Oh, I'm confused by that. What do you mean? He didn't want him in the city? Like he was like just, how can you stop somebody from, he didn't want you to import it at all, or what?
Well, he didn't want them operating on the streets.
Okay.
They were street legal, but he didn't want them operating on the streets. So I went before I presented it to some of the city council individually, and I had some support, and I had some people that were opponents of it. But he got word of it, and the very next proposal meeting, he proposed an ordinance change to outlaw them.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting timing there.
So
Okay.
yeah, he immediately changed city ordinance, or wanted to get it approved by city council to push me out. So
Okay.
that was the first time trying to fight a somewhat of a political battle. And so yeah, I went in front of city council and I had all these great points, and I will argue people under the table, but apparently not at City Hall.
When there's a whole bunch of them looking at you.
Oh yeah, so they called the issue up, and people come and speak on it. And so I got up there, and I had all, like I said, I had all these things to say, and I stood up in front and I looked at and all these important people, and I was still like a novice businessman at that point. I didn't have a lot of confidence in that side of things, and so I was like, don't do this. That's pretty much the gist of what I said. It was the worst argument of all time. I had literally words just could not come to my brain. I was just like, look at this crowd.
All your amazing
Look
points.
at this crowd.
Just
Look
out
at me.
the window.
We're just here. Don't do it, guys. That's all. And I just
Have a nice day. Okay,
so I lost.
Needless to say, yeah, that probably didn't go over too well.
Yeah.
All right, so then, well, here you are with the business full of these vehicles, so there must have been some progress from there.
Fast forward, Lowcountry's killing it. I found a real love for the build, and that's what I enjoy the most. And I was out in LA doing my thing, and I came across this market, and a guy had a Piaggio version of a tuk-tuk, which is the original design. It's a way nicer, way classier.
Piaggio,
Yeah.
it's like a
Vespa. Piaggio and Vespa used to be the same company. So
like the AMG for Mercedes.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
Yeah.
All
Actually, so the tuk-tuk is they stole the plates from Piaggio way back in the day, and anyway, that's a different. We'll save the history lesson.
Okay. All right.
But anyway, these are like the highly desired versions of the tuk-tuks. So they're found over in Italy and Spain, in the UK a little bit, but they're super cute. So I saw this guy. He was doing some jewelry sales out the back, and I was like, holy shit, man, where'd you get that thing? And so he connected me with a guy that helped me import 2 of them. So I just bought 2 on a whim, because that's how I roll. No plans, nothing to do with it yet. And I was like, that'd make a great ice cream truck.
Yeah, you can't just go to tuktuk.com, right, and
Right.
place an order for 2 of them. But you gotta have a contact.
Yeah, I mean, maybe now you could, but Alibaba or something. But yeah, so he connected me with a guy. The guy imported it, and I just had him sitting. There was this girl who was working for me, and she wanted to break free and do her own thing. So she was like, hey, she had presented me with an idea previously about doing a juice bar with an antique bus, and I was like, that is not a great way to invest that kind of money. I was like, I don't think you'll ever make bus money back out of a juice bar. So she reapproached it, and she was like, well, what if we did beverages out of it? I was like, okay, I think that's something we could work with here.
Yeah, okay.
And so she paid for the material, and I did all the labor and design. I designed the whole thing, did all the labor for free, and she put it on Instagram, and boom, blew up. Orders started coming in. People were looking for it. So I was like, all right. So
Proof of concept.
yeah. So Silverside Design had already been created legally at that point, but it hadn't made any traction yet. I was trying to take on any kind of fabrication I could get, as far as vintage vehicles go. And so, yeah, I turned one of these things into a Prosecco bar for her. So 6 taps, you can really put anything in it. And, but it was a very classy, very cute, really petite vehicle, and people lost their minds over it. And I was like, okay, I think we're on to something else here.
Yeah.
And so I built another one, and consecutively as I built every single one, I got much better. The very first one I built for her, I won't say her name because I don't want to make people think that she's got a crappy product here in town, but it was terrible. It was trash compared to what we do now. It's the sketch versus the concept,
100%, Yep.
So now fast forward, I brought on a partner who does paint and body. That's my weak spot. And now, we're putting out these pristine little 3-wheel Prosecco trucks.
And who do you, so these are by custom mortar only?
Yeah.
Okay.
So people pay for them up front, and then we build them. So
and what is that? Can you talk about what the cost is on one, or is it how you put the cost structure together?
Yeah. So on the website, we kind of features that we build onto them all the time. We know what they cost, so we have a set price. So they kind of pick their features, kind of like if you were buying a car brand new from the manufacturer. You'd say, I want power seats, I want a swimming pool, whatever.
Swimming pool.
Fit my ride style.
We're combining industries. I like it though. I like it. Okay.
So
they can select. So what's kind of the range, right, for kind of a starter?
So it's not a cheap venture.
Like hypothetically, if asking for a friend.
So you'd probably be walking in at the very bottom at around 35K,
okay,
and go up to 65K.
Got you.
So and we're actually building a refrigerated model in June, which will probably be like 80K. So it just depends. I mean, we keep trying to push it because the demand is there, and you create the demand. When I built that thing, it created the demand.
Yep.
And there's some imitators across the US at this point, but I mean, they're not doing what we're doing.
That's why. And so who are your customers on these?
They've mainly been women so far, but they're
like event planners. Is it people that have their own companies?
Man, it's run the gambit, but it's usually for event purposes. Renting them for weddings and such. So, wedding planners. We had someone that had an event rental business where they did like vintage furniture and stuff like that. We had someone who's a photographer that wanted to add in drinks to it and a photography booth on it. We've got one for, I think it's called, I don't want to say that. I can't remember the name, but it's apparently a wildly popular brewery in Brooklyn. And so,
dude, y'all need, you guys need to do is put together a pitch for a reality show. Like you've seen West Coast Customs with all the bikes. Like we need an East Coast something.
Well, I think now we got the right amount of drama in the shop, man. So I mentioned I was almost homeless for a second time. So I did go through a period of a year where I was homeless when I was 18, and so I have like a soft spot for people who are in that position. So we actually have a guy, Troy, that we brought on, and he was kind of going through rough times, and he lives in our shop now, and he is a character. And we've got a lot of great moments on film of interactions in the shop. So I think we got a good chance here. But Troy, to paint a picture of Troy is an old. He was part of a biker gang, and he's not a part of that affiliation anymore. But he's tatted up. He's skinny, long hair, big long beard. And he smokes cigarettes and eats ramen. He has the most unhealthy diet I've ever seen. And he is ripped, bro. He is ripped. It doesn't make sense. He's got to be like 60, 65.
Scientific anomaly.
He is, man. He's unkillable. He's like embalmed at this point, man. Nicest guy.
If anybody sees this, if you have a connection to Bravo or Spike TV, or I don't even know if that's still a channel, but we need to get you guys a little pitch put together.
Hey man, I think it'd be a good time, man. Especially with the like we're always just horsing around in there, so it's a good environment, and it's definitely made for some good entertainment for sure.
I feel like we can't go through a whole hour of kind of talking about you and the business without talking about you are a single dad.
Yeah.
So you have a young lady in your life,
right?
How has let's talk about her and just kind of how that's been being an entrepreneur, also being a dad, just kind of all that.
Yeah, well, I can't say that I'm 100% single dad. Like her mother and I have a great relationship, and we've been apart pretty much since before she was born. So we've always done roughly a 50-50 split. At this point, it is 50-50. So I get like a solid week where I get on the grind, and then I have a week where, my days are a little bit more modified so I can have some quality time with her and everything. It does make dating a challenge when I have a week that I can't see anybody, and then, because I'm focused on her, and then a week where I'm like grinding my ass off. So, dating has been interesting. You know, also I feel like it's hard to relate. I'm like a high speed individual, so you typically want to find someone who's, you know, has a similar mentality, and you know, it's tough, but you know, by no means do I not have like a really happy, fulfilled life because of it.
Yeah,
like, having a kid was a beautiful thing for me.
Do you find that having a daughter helps kind of motivates you to push and to create some sort of a kind of a legacy, or maybe that's a wealth or a business that you can kind of pass on to her?
You know, I would love to say yes, but it absolutely does not.
It does not.
Not even a little bit. I think the thing that it pushes me to do is just be a better person.
Okay.
You know, I haven't always been a really good person like I am now. You know, this
this stud that I see right here before me.
You know, this picture of
modeling
man.
Excellence.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, not at all, man. I'm far from it. But
there's a few guys you grew up with that are watching this right now. They're going,
yeah.
Oh, let me get this dude on the phone right now.
No. The day that if I ever ran for office, bro, I'm doomed.
It's all coming out.
It's all coming out, man. But you know, I would say I don't really have a desire to create a legacy for her. I want to give her a good life, and I want to teach her that stuff. But at this point in time, I think my motivation is really just to give her a good life.
Yeah, that's I can definitely relate on that level. You know, I have a little girl. Our daughter's about the same age. Yep. I think Madeline's 8, right?
9.
She's 9. Okay, so Claire's 8. And it's funny, you know, when I talk to a lot of other entrepreneurs, and they talk a lot about that, like, what's your why, right? And they're like, and they want to create this legacy for their kids and create this family wealth and all that stuff. And it's like, or, you know, they want to provide for their kids. It's like, I kind of know, like, to be honest, you know, she's provided for. Claire's not going hungry.
Yeah.
She can be all right no matter what. So that doesn't actually motivate me.
It's just, I love the hustle, man.
Yeah,
I like the game. Exactly. You know, I like seeing if I'm gonna win, and losing doesn't even matter to me, because I like what I take from it. You know.
Yeah, 100%. I almost feel like it's more like when I am like preaching to her that, like, hey, you could do anything if you just put your heart and your heart into it, and you commit to it, right? And you put the work in. I kind of just like don't want that to be a hypocritical statement. You know, like for her to be like, okay, Dad, well, what have you done? If that's so true, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I kind of want to just like set the example more than anything.
You know, I know we're running out of time here, but so there's a guy that I follow, and he was talking about, he's like, his mom was trying to give him advice, and he was like, I don't mean any disrespect to you, Mom. He's like, but I can't become a millionaire by taking advice from you, because you're not one. And I was like, he was like, you gave me a great life. You taught me a lot of values, but you can't teach me about this. So I can't take your advice here. And that's kind of more to what you're saying about modeling, you know, like I want my daughter I do want that, but it's not a motivation, but I do want that, you know?
Yeah.
I think true motivation is when you just do it because it's for you.
Yep.
You know?
Yep. Love it, man. Love it. All right, brother. So we got a couple of minutes left here. First of all, where can people find you if they want to learn more about the Jeffrey Newton or Silverside or Lowcountry Valet? Where do you want to send them? My very humble Instagram account with my very loyal 500 followers. It's about to shoot up. Just be ready. It's going to be at least 505.
505. Oh, man, I might have to post a story.
Yeah, make it private.
So at Real J Newton, and then in my bio, I've got links to my companies there. So it's kind of the one stop, you know. And my OnlyFans is down there as well. You can check that out.
You're lying.
Nobody wants to see this, bro.
All right, I love it. Okay, last couple minutes here. I'd say we got about 2 minutes left. If you could go back in time to when you first started your business, give yourself any piece of advice, what would you tell yourself 10 years ago?
Oh, man. Fuck all these dreams. Go ahead and take every penny you have, put it in Bitcoin.
I just hit my head on the mic over here. Put it all in Bitcoin.
Put it all in Bitcoin.
I did some math because actually you put that on your answer. Bitcoin in 2010 was 8 cents.
Oh.
So if you put $1 in Bitcoin, it'd be worth 687,000.
Oh,
right now.
God. Yeah.
Dang.
$1. $1.
I put it all in Bitcoin. All right. Okay, let's try one more question. Final question before we cut it off. If you could give one piece of advice to somebody listening, looking at the real FJ Newton. Is that right? Real J Newton. Oh.
FJ.
I added a letter. There's no F. The real J Newton. And they're like, man, I want to be like that guy. I want to be an entrepreneur. What advice would you give to them?
I wrote these in, and because I had to think about them for a second. But it would definitely be, study success. Get a mentor for sure. Find someone that's already done what you're trying to do. Reach out to them. Reach out to every one of them that you can. Even one is worth it. I don't know. I can't remember. I wish I had my cheat sheet here so I could sound enlightened. But
you said I actually wrote them down. You want me to give you some hints?
Yeah.
All right. You mentioned debt.
Oh yeah. No debt ever.
And then you talked about having an exit strategy.
Yeah. So those are important, man. To know where you're going, you also need to know where you're going to end up. Like if you got a direction, you need to figure out where that direction could take you and how you're going to get out. Because as I can attest, you don't want to do the same thing forever. You're going to want to change it up, try new things. I mean, that's what life is all about. So, yeah.
So have an end in mind, know where you're headed.
Exactly.
Beautiful. Dude, this has been fun, man.
Yeah, man.
Thank you, brother. Awesome having you on the show. Hey, y'all, that's a wrap on today's episode. Thanks so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to like or follow or subscribe. Whatever platform you're on, just hit the button to make sure you don't miss any future episodes.
Yep, and please help us grow the channel by sharing it with someone else who might enjoy it as well. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.